Introducing
Pretty Girls Love Real Estate. Stories of everyday women breaking barriers and building wealth through real estate.
Let's get it. Boss. BOSS.
Hello. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Pretty Girls Love Real Estate podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Washington, and I am super excited once again for my guest today. My guest is Miss Melissa Fleury. She has an amazing platform called The Branded Career, which is about executive coaching and career development. She also has a podcast associated with that. So I always love having fellow podcasters on. And she's also an asset manager at a top commercial real estate firm. So first and foremost, Melissa, how are you? Thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well, and I'm excited to get into the content today.
Yes, ma'am. All right. So I want to talk to you about all those things that we said before, but you weren't originally into commercial real estate. So you transitioned over to that. So tell me just a little bit about your background before you started with real estate.
Yeah. So I had dreams after I got out of school. I graduated bachelor's in economics, and I'm I'm going to be an investment banker. I'm about to make all this money. And then 08, 09 happened. And I'm okay, I definitely don't want to be down on Wall Street. But I still ended up working for a top financial services firm. And my first job out of school was actually being a personal banker. And let me tell you, if I'm being honest, I absolutely hated that job. It was not what I pictured coming out of school. I thought I'd be in the city making all this money. And I was just in a branch opening up checking accounts and helping people apply for credit cards. But I don't despise small beginnings now, because there's a lot of things that I used then that I absolutely use now. And so one of the things that really kind of pushed me was I knew I didn't love the job. I didn't want to be here. So I just started applying elsewhere. And I ended up finding this internal program at the firm I was with. It was an underwriting program. And I applied, I got in, and they gave us the option to either stay at the current cities we resided in, or we could move to another city. And those options were Jacksonville, Florida, Dallas, Texas, Ohio, and somewhere in Arizona. I think it was Tempe, Arizona. So I'm a New Yorker, born and raised. And I said, you know what, let me move to Texas. No family, no friends, but I'm all about just creating new experiences and having memories that I could talk to my friends, my kids about. And plus, I was young. I mean, I still am young. And I just wanted to see something different. So I was working in that underwriting function. We were doing single family residences. We switched from originations into modifications, because back then, like I said, 08, 09, even I would say even into 2013, was a lot of people losing their homes. So they had to do modifications and forbearances. And as an underwriter, I needed to understand how to do those things. And I was with that firm for almost 7 years. So a majority of that was in doing underwriting.
Okay. All right. And so what gave you that bug to, transition into real estate? What made you interested in it?
Yeah. So I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. For me, I thought my next step was to just apply to get into school, go to business school, get my MBA, and kind of figure it out from there. And I joined a program called MLT, Management Leaders for Tomorrow. And they had this MBA career prep where, you would interview or have access to top 25 business schools. And honestly, anybody that's considering getting an MBA, that is an amazing program and platform for you to be a part of, because as minority students and minority professionals, we don't necessarily have access to Harvard and Wharton and Stanford and those schools. And they kind of present it to you outright, And so one of the things we had to consider was, what are you going to business school for? And I knew I didn't want to do traditional paths like consulting or finance. And I just remember my coach at the time saying, really pay attention to the things that interest you. And I just remember just being in Dallas, driving around neighborhoods. And I promise you, I felt buildings were like going up overnight. Like there was a new downtown area, there was a new office building, like, and these were like beautiful buildings. And I would just drive around, like I would drive around to new apartment complexes. And I really wanted to know like, who owned these buildings? Like who financed these buildings? You know, like who has multi-million dollars to do these types of deals? And I said, you know what, I'm going to apply, you know, I'm gonna go to business school, and I know I want to get into commercial real estate. Like I wasn't interested in getting my license to do single family residences. Like I really wanted to do, like, as I tell people, like I wanted to do like big boy deals. Like I wanted to do the stuff that, you know, people don't know about. And I applied to school, didn't get in. And if anybody knows the application process for graduate school, it's not cheap. And
I couldn't see my face if you listen to the recording, but
it is not cheap. And I think I probably applied to somewhere between 10 to 12 different business schools. I got into one, but the offer wasn't good. And so I just said, you know what, if I can't get into, because ultimately, and that's for those that are applying to like graduate school or maybe going down a different path, like you got to know that always think about your end goal and don't be afraid to change the path to get there. And I said, ultimately, the goal is not just to get into business school. The goal is for me to go to business school to then transition into commercial real estate. And if that's not going to happen to me through going to school, then I got to find a different way to do that. And what ended up happening was I found a friend of mine told me about this organization called Project REAP. And it just so happened that they had open admissions right after I got my denials from all the business schools. And I applied to the program. And I got in.
Okay. So, you know, if you listen to this show ever, like Project REAP is one of my favorite things to talk about. I definitely think it's for sure a catalyst in helping me with my career transition into commercial real estate. So for anybody that does not know, or if you never listened to this show before, like, can you tell people about Project REAP and then your just experience of doing it specifically in Dallas? Because I did it in New York City, and I imagine the experience with Dallas is a little bit different. So please tell us about Project REAP.
Yeah. So anybody that knows me knows that I rant and rave about Project REAP. Like Project REAP wants me to do something, I'm always there to support because it really was a catalyst in my career. And so Project REAP is a program that focuses on increasing minority representation within the commercial real estate industry. And so they do that through a program that's about, I think it's like 8 weeks, where there's in-person classes, but not only the classes that introduce you to different aspects of commercial real estate, I would say is really for the networking and the participation from other commercial real estate firms that you never would have had access to. And so some of these firms are your traditional firms, such as like CBRE, JLL. Sometimes it can be region specific. Down in Dallas, Duke Realty was a sponsor, but then you also have other avenues such as Starbucks, McDonald's, Walmart. So it really exposes you to a wide range of commercial real estate aside from office buildings, or what a lot of people didn't even know. Like many people think about real estate, they only think about houses and buying and selling a house. And if you have honestly any type of skill set from accounting to marketing, project management, even construction, engineering, like there is probably a place for you within the CRE industry. And Project REAP just helped me to really start to figure out what I wanted to do, where my skills would fit, and what kind of career I wanted going forward.
Okay, awesome. So I'm assuming that through your experiences and through your networking connections with Project REAP, that helped you transition to your next career path and your next firm that you started working with now.
Yes. So while I was down in Dallas, I'm attending these classes. So it was set up that 2 nights a week you would go in and you would have classes, network with not only just the professionals, but your cohort. Like my Dallas class, like we still talk, we have a group meet, and it's one of those places, it's a vibe where it's kind of like, we may not speak every day, but if you need something, I got you, and that's really what you want out of any kind of relationship that you have, that you're building professionally. And I probably right before graduation, I ended up getting laid off. So now I didn't get into business school. I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go to Project REAP route. And then I get laid off from my job, right? And and for me, like anyone would say, like, well, you got laid off, you didn't get fired. But a bit of pride happens when you get laid off, where it's kind of like, I wanted to leave on my terms. I didn't want you to tell me to leave, you know? And I just remember working through those feelings, because the next thing that happened to me, which I would say, and we'll talk about this a little later, really started the branded career, where it's like a lot of us put a lot of stock into our professions, and it allows that to define who we are. Mm-hmm. So for anyone that's ever, like, if you didn't have a job, if you got laid off, if you got fired, you don't realize how much your career meant to you until you don't have it. That you're chilling at brunch and someone asks you the first question after your name, oh, what do you do? You know, and you don't have a response for it. Because at that time I was like, oh, I'm laid off, but it's a long story. I got fired. And I started to realize, like, whatever my next transition step was, and for me, I knew was commercial real estate. Like, I was going to do the best that I could do. I was going to achieve as much as I could achieve, but I was never going to allow that to define who I am as a person. You know, it's something that I do. It's not who I am, you know, and I wanted my career to be based off of other things rather than just my title and my salary. So after I got laid off, I made that decision. You know, at that point, I've been living in Dallas for about 7, almost 8 years. I said, all right, let me come back home to New York. And I'll figure it out. And so Project REAP really helped me, because I just honestly just hustled and grinded and like, look, I'm a Project REAP alum. I'm interested in doing this. And like, I was all over LinkedIn. I was all over, like, just asking people to introduce me to people, because the other thing I will say about commercial real estate is that it's very market specific. And I had built a market down in Dallas and a network down in Dallas, but now I needed to build a brand new network up in New York, because nobody really knew who I was. And Project REAP has allowed me to have that platform to really not necessarily have to start from the bottom from that.
Right. Okay. So now you're within asset management at a top commercial real estate firm. Is that something that you knew you wanted to get into, or the opportunity came and you were like, okay, this sounds like something I can do. Let me investigate further.
Yeah, I fell into it. I definitely was not looking at asset management as my next step. Like, I honestly wanted to work as a project manager and really focus more so on retail real estate. But I tell you, God has a purpose for everything, because if we look at what happened with retail the last, 12 months and what's happening with office.
But yeah, definitely.
It's a lot. And then also finding out what project managers really do. I was like, I ain't got the patience for these people to be doing that. Not me.
Site with your hard hat and all that.
I'll do that as an asset manager, not as a project manager. I ain't got time for that. Shouts out to the project managers, because we cannot do this without y'all. Y'all have another level of patience and detail that I do not have. And so I was applying to different jobs, and funny story enough is that a friend of mine presented my now company. She sent me this job application, because I was still unemployed, job posting. And she said, hey, Mel, like, I know you want to get into real estate, but here's an admin position, and, you know, it's not too far from your house. And I was like, I don't want to be no admin, but my unemployment benefits was running out. My savings account was running out. And I was like, you know what, let me apply to be an admin, and, you know, I'll just work my way up from then. Like, I can't be picky. And I show up for the interview, and the guy looks at my resume. He goes, you're way overqualified to be an admin. He was like, we're going to find you a position. And I'm sitting there, I was like, for real? And he was like, no, like, you're way qualified for the position. And so he had me interview with almost every department within my current firm. And so about a month later, the asset management team calls me. He goes, look, I have an analyst position open. Do you want it? I'm like, absolutely. And so I come in. I didn't even know. I kind of knew what my firm did, but I definitely didn't know, stepping in as a senior analyst. And I definitely didn't know what an asset manager does. And I was able to move very quickly from a senior analyst now into a senior asset management position, because I realized like one of the biggest things about real estate is that you have to be flexible and you have to be open to learning new things, even if you've never done it before. And I was just hungry. Like all I wanted to do was just learn. And as an asset manager, I love what asset managers do. And I will say it depends on your firm and the company, but I love the fact that we really get to see every single part of the development process or the real estate process without having to be devoted to that one specific piece.
Okay. And so for somebody that's listening now that doesn't know exactly what an asset manager is, can you just give a brief synopsis of what that does? What are some of your responsibilities and how has your experience been specifically now at your firm?
Right. So like I said, an asset manager will definitely, the responsibilities will vary depending on the firm. For the most part, I would say for any type of like institutional group or group of investors or owners that hire an asset manager, the job of that asset manager is simply just to continue to make that property or project profitable, bring it to completion, and then focus on any financials and keeping it steady if they decide to keep it on the books. As an asset manager at my job, I work for a lender. And typically I work in a structured group. So financing terms are about 2 to 3 years where investors are coming and saying that they need debt or capital to either buy a building and rehab or maybe do some continued development on a ground up project. And so as the asset manager, one of the things that I'm looking for is either doing draw disbursements on construction or even just helping them because it's structured and a lot of these properties are not stabilized, is figuring out, okay, how do we make this profitable? How do we increase rents? What kind of modifications do we need to make to your expenses? And I work on behalf of the lender, ensuring that these properties exit successfully because we want to make sure we get our money back. But I find that I end up really just being a partner to the clients because many times it's just them and their team and they don't really understand what's happening in the market or how things are influencing them, that because they're so entrenched in it, that I'm coming in as an outside party saying, look, I've been reviewing your expenses for the last 3 months. This is what you should be doing. Maybe you should consider selling the property and just, bringing in new ideas for them.
With your firm now, I'm assuming you're talking about a little bit higher than your lower level, kind of entry level investors. What's your sweet spot in terms of deal size?
Deal size, I would say like my portfolio that I'm assigned to, the smallest I have is 6.5 million and it goes all the way up to like 65 million.
Okay. And are you all focused in any particular region or are you all over the country?
We're all over the country. So funny enough, at one point, my portfolio was based in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Mm-hmm. Different, but learning experience. But now my portfolio ranges from like the Northeast and like Philadelphia all the way to Oceanside, California.
Okay. So that's one thing I love about asset management. You get so much varied experience. Like you said, you're doing stuff in all different sizes and shapes. You're doing it all over the country. Do you all have a particular asset class that you focus on?
Yeah, we're primarily multifamily, but for structured finance, because it's considered high risk, we'll do different deals. So there's some office. I have student housing, mobile homes. That was a new asset class for me to deal with and understanding that structure, and even some mixed use and ground up development.
Okay, so you're like getting a little bit dangerous in all the different walks of real estate. So that's awesome. So
yeah, even. Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, probably one of the funnest is not a word, right? But one of the funnest, most fun asset classes I've ever dealt with is hospitality. Mm-hmm. And it's because you have to treat, of course, you got to treat it as an asset, but you also have to look at it as an actual business model. And that was definitely a difficult deal, but that I learned so much from that one.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely learning about all the different asset classes makes you be able to transition to different points and reach higher heights, which is a good kind of segue into talking about you and your firm, the Branded Career, which is all about kind of helping people navigate their career trajectory. So what was the inspiration behind that?
Yeah, so getting laid off. lost my job. Because like, I literally was going through like kind of like a rebirth, a transformation, you know, like I spent all my time in the first half of my career or the first 7-8 years at a financial services firm and doing that now I'm saying, oh, hey, I want to do real estate. And I realized that a lot of people, they go through that. Like you go to school for one thing and then you realize you don't want to do it anymore, but you're stuck because you have so much experience in one field. And I made a lot of mistakes during my job search process. But then not only like just the job search process, I realized like I had to go through a transformation in branding myself in my new career, hence the name, The Branded Career. And also I realized like there were things that I didn't learn or that I needed to learn once I got into the CRE field, where it was like just leadership and client management, setting expectations, how to deal with investors and executives, like all the soft skill training that you don't get. Like we go to school and we learn all the Excel and get the certifications and all those things, but no one really tells you like how to conduct a business meeting. You know, how do you overcome imposter syndrome when you're the only Black woman in the room, you know? And those are the things that, you know, my firm's mission is really to increase the amount of specifically Black women in executive and C-suite roles, because I am really tired of us being pushed into background operational roles or being told to sit in the back and all of those things, when it's like we really are leaders and we dominate and we can do other things aside from diversity and inclusion, you know? Like, I feel like there's so many bomb women that are brokers, salespersons, project managers, like, and they're not being put into position. And I think one is because like there is this thing of it's not enough diverse talent, and we know that's BS. But I really want to help women to now be confident and just straight up just ask for the roles. Like we're no longer waiting for people to see us. Like we're just positioning ourselves to get there.
Right. So you are kind of, I know you've been in business for a while, but now is like kind of the like time where all of this is coming together. Everything that you've been saying, you know, after George Floyd's murder, you know, all these Fortune 500 companies, and then especially in commercial real estate, where it's like long been behind the rest of the world in terms of diversity and inclusion. Now it's like all of these different CEOs are really having this conversation about how do we get more diversity? How do we check both boxes of more women and more people of color? So it's all the things that you're talking about. So I guess, how do you feel about what's happening in the industry in terms of increasing the diversity? And then what are some of the things that you all are teaching your students specifically of how to navigate everything that's happening right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, my thoughts on it is like, I believe it when I see it. Like, I put your money where your mouth is. Like, I get it. It's business. You know, a lot of firms want to ride the wave and the promotion of saying we're allies and, you know, we want to help and we want to put people into position, but don't talk about it. Like legit do it. Right. So if you feel like you don't know where, quote unquote, know where diverse talent is. And for the listeners, this is air quotes because I'm tired of people saying, oh, we don't know where they are. Stop it. You partner with organizations. You partner with the Project REAP, right? You partner with those organizations that are going to position your pipeline so that you're able to really attract those types of talents. The other thing is not only should you be attracting your talent, you should be retaining them, right? That means really putting in resources to ensure that they have exposure to executive leadership, but they also have exposure to the right projects that are going to get them promoted. Right. So I don't need you just simply hiring me because I'm Black. Right. And I think that's also the other thing. Like many people are like, I don't want to be hired for my skin tone. And I absolutely agree. Like I want to be hired for my skill set, you know, how I think or whatnot. But I also know that once you hire me, like I still got to prove myself. I still got to do the work. But I can't get to the next level if I'm constantly just being told to kind of like push paper or doing meaningless work. So really position your employees to grow with new experiences and entrust them with the same opportunities that you do a Brad or whoever else who has less experience, right? The other thing is let's pay people properly. that is another thing that I'm very big on, is you are not about to get my talent for cheap, right? So ensuring that I'm being paid market, and if not a little more. I always ask my clients, ask for a little more. But just ensuring ensuring that those things are in place, like you attract, you retain, and you pay them. Like that is, I think, a sure way for me to know how much you really care about diversity and inclusion and making things equitable. Because that's the other thing. Like the biggest piece I think that's missing from the DE&I conversation is the equitable piece, you know? I feel like I just went off. I'm sorry.
I'm kind of going off on a tangent now as well. What would you say? Because I've attended a lot of different, commercial real estate events and panels, and especially recently, a lot of the discussion with diversity inclusion is that, okay, I'm here, I've been in the firm for a while, I'm doing good work or whatever the case may be, but I feel like I can't advance, one, because I don't have the mentorship at those higher levels, especially being a woman of color. Like no one else looks like me within those ranks. So I don't have that relationship within my firm at the higher ranks to be able to kind of, put me under their wing and pull me up and show me the ropes of what I need to do to promote. And then, just in general, people hire who looks like them and they help promote and sponsor people that look like them. So what would your advice be to that person? Like, I'm doing good things, but I just don't know. I've literally hit a ceiling because, no one else looks like me at the top.
Yeah. So my first thing is, don't be afraid to have mentorship that doesn't look like you. Like, I think that is one of the missing pieces that we don't talk about, is that, of course, I'm going to do my best to ensure that, any woman of color that comes into my first, or even man of color, I don't think you necessarily need to have like the same sex mentors or whatnot. But like, I'm gonna make sure that they're in position, they have resources, I can point them to the right direction. But one thing that I guess fell into was that my only options were white male, right? And when I came into the firm, I will say I really was blessed because she's not my boss again, is that I had a Black woman in asset management, and she wasn't my direct boss at the time. But one thing that she would always do is that as an analyst, she would just say, hey, you want to join my call? Hey, you want to come on this site inspection with me? Hey, you want to write my report for me? And then not to say she was still in labor or anything, but she exposed me. She put me in position. And I think that also helped me in getting my promotion so quickly, is because I had done the things that she had allowed me to do. And then the other thing was that when I found good connections with white men, I just asked questions. I learned, like, how would you approach this conversation? What areas do you think I need to be a bit more assertive in? And what ended up happening? Those became my sponsors. Like, those men became the people that said, you know what, like, you don't want to lose good talent. You need to promote Melissa. Oh, hey, you should give this project to Melissa. So don't overlook like people that don't look like you, because those can definitely be the best mentors and sponsors for you.
Okay. Great advice. I appreciate it. So let's talk more about your specific platform, the Branded Career. And I see you kind of have two main lanes. You have the career development that we're speaking about now, but then you also have the executive coaching that teaches you those leadership skills, and how to kind of, the soft skills to kind of learn how to delegate things and just be someone that advocates for other people. So can you talk about that more?
Yeah. So with the career development piece, I created a program called the Leadership Incubator. And the purpose of the Leadership Incubator is really to help those that are seeking to get a promotion, right? And that could be internally through your boss, through your company, or externally stepping into that first leadership role. And so we're really focusing on what is your value add? Like, how do you articulate that this is what I do, this is what I'm an expert in, and this is what I can help you with? And not only that, really focusing in on what happens once you get the job. So how are you leading your actual meetings? How do you communicate with your team? Also, big piece is negotiations, and not only monetary negotiations as far as like your salary, your bonuses, and those things which we get to, but negotiating with people. I think a lot of us forget that negotiations is really about just the back and forth of getting to an end goal that we both agree to. And that can happen through conflict resolution and management, as well as just dealing with teams, and also like vendors, external stakeholders, and how do you navigate those types of conversations. And so I really created the incubator to give people this space to kind of figure it out, but have the framework and guidance to do so. So clients that have gone through like just the incubator and coaching with me, I say on average, usually increase their income between $20,000 to $30,000, right? And the sad part about that is because like it's of course it's great news, but the thing about it, like my clients and I realized like, dang, I should have been making this money years ago. And so trying to recoup on earnings that you should have been making 5 years ago and taking a position that you were underpaid for. So making sure that, like I said, people are paid well and in positions that they're supposed to be in. The executive coaching piece is really for those that are like, no, like I need that one-on-one support to really start thinking about like my mindset, like how do I actually overcome imposter syndrome, gaining the self-awareness piece in conducting myself not only in meetings, because like I realized for myself and my clients that many of us have been beat up by corporate America, that our self-esteem has taken a hit, that we don't even put ourselves in positions for new opportunities, even when we're qualified for it. Mm-hmm. And executive coaching really goes deep into like your belief systems, any underlying issues that you may be having, and figuring out, okay, how do we not only coach you to make, better decisions, but really give you the tools to coach yourself after you're done working with me.
Okay. So asking for a friend, like your platform is very self-explanatory in terms of somebody that's in a traditional career path and they're looking to move up the ranks, but somebody that may be coming in from the entrepreneurial perspective, especially in commercial real estate, you got brokers, developers, people that are doing things where they're doing a lot of meetings and networking and a lot of stuff until you actually get to the point where you receive a check. So what type of advice or how can your platform be applicable to those people?
Yeah, so I tell people executive coaching is definitely more for you because we can customize your experience specifically to your end goal, which is why I really love executive coaching. But the other thing I would say for those that are in those types of like just grind where you got to eat, what is it? You eat what you kill, is just because you have more of a free flowing type of thing with entrepreneurship where you can make some adjustments, there still needs to be some structure. And with executive coaching, what I like to do is bring in a lot of the corporate structure and figuring out what works to keep you disciplined, and also just a process so that you're able to follow along with your entrepreneurship.
Okay, awesome. Definitely everybody, if you're interested, check it out. The branding, got an awesome platform. I also want to talk about now you've kind of turned that and you're, trying to share your platform and, give value to people through podcasts. So experience so far and how that's going.
Yeah, we spoke about this, like, not to say that I thought podcasting was hard, but podcasting is hard, y'all. Like, so make sure y'all rate, y'all comment, y'all subscribe to this podcast because there's a lot of effort and passion that goes into podcasting. And so when I've been wanting to start a podcast, but honestly, I was afraid because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say, who I'm going to have on the show. And I just realized I would be a hypocrite to tell my clients to jump out there and try new things when I wouldn't do it for myself. Mm-hmm. And so a couple of months ago, I launched the Branded Career podcast. And the purpose of the podcast is to, one, just talk about things that happens as you grow your career in corporate that we don't talk about. So maybe talk about, just the emotions and the mindsets, negotiating your salary. But then also, I felt like a lot of podcasts can be geared towards entrepreneurs and how to build your business, scale your business, gain more clients. But there's very few podcasts that focuses on actual corporate America in the day-to-day. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to also bring in guests who have built a career in corporate America that may not have been as quote unquote traditional, but it's still corporate and they built their career their way. So I'm like, just really wanted to share their stories because I know a lot of dope people that you don't know out there, on IG or LinkedIn, but like they're doing it.
Yes, definitely. Everybody go check out the Branded Career podcast. I've, tuned into a couple of episodes and she's definitely providing a lot of value. Some of the guests blew my mind about all the awesome things that they're doing. And
Thank you.
like you said about the perspective. Oh, you're welcome, about the mindset piece. Because, we know the technical skills and whatnot, like we can excel when we're given the opportunity. It's the mindset to put yourself in position to be, eligible for those opportunities. So
yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Is there anything else that you have coming up? I know you got a million things going on. Anything new or any events, anything that you have coming up in the near future?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Leadership Incubator, I'm getting ready to open the doors for that in a couple weeks. So if you're interested in learning more about the Leadership Incubator, how it might help you, join the wait list. You can visit my website or hit me up on IG. But other than that, just really now getting into the corporate side with the Branded Career and helping companies, like you mentioned, there are companies that really need to start supporting their employees as far as like retention, leadership development. So the Branded Career has been really providing workshops and doing some consulting to help companies really retain their diverse talent.
Okay, that's awesome, girl. Yeah, get that corporate bag. Like clients are great, but when you got a corporation coming in to train all their staff, that's when you're really on the next level. So congratulations with that.
Thank you.
All right, so let me move on to the last segment of the show, which is called the Fabulous Four, and it's just the 4 questions I ask all the guests. So, whatever you think of, just fire away. So the first question is, what is your favorite book about real estate?
You sent me this question and I'm like, I don't know.
It could be because, some people aren't like heavily into reading real estate books. So it could be about personal development or entrepreneurship, anything like that.
Yeah, because I read a lot. Like my bookshelf is right here. Probably my favorite book on real estate is The Millionaire Real Estate Investor.
Okay.
And so what's good about that book is if you are considering building out your own real estate portfolio, like it really breaks it down in baby steps in order for you to do that. And I found that it even really helps me as far as like engaging with like some of my clients and different vendors and how to speak to them, what I'm looking for, and just being direct with like the outcomes that I want.
All right. Awesome suggestion. Awesome suggestion. Number 2 question is, what advice would you give to your younger self just getting started in career? And this is everything that your platform is about almost.
Yeah. My biggest thing is don't be so hard on yourself. Like we come out of school and we feel like we have to be a CEO by the time we're 25, making 100K, with the Benz or whatever it is your dream car is. And your job, I thoroughly believe this, in your 20s is just to learn. Like, don't be afraid to quit your job and get another job. I'm not telling you to quit your job and go out here and be crazy, but if there are industries, if there are passions that you want to explore, don't feel like you have to be tied down to this one thing. Like, thoroughly go ahead and explore it, learn, because you can take that information, start a business, get into a career that really suits you and your passions.
All right. I love that advice. There's some people out here that I know wish they would take that. So that's neither here nor there. The third question is, what topic within real estate do you personally want to learn more about?
Yeah. So I want to get back into retail real estate. Like that is the reason that I wanted to get into commercial real estate. Like I wrote about in my essays for the MBA programs is that I really wanted to build hotels. I wanted to build hotels in third world. I hate calling them third world countries, but specifically I wanted to build hotels in Haiti. That's where my family's from. And I wanted to build like luxury hotels and resorts and suites because I realized like just the power of real estate is not only in the asset, it's really in the community because it provides jobs, it appreciates the community, and it also brings in other developers and investors to really revitalize it. So just, hopefully in my career, I'll get that opportunity to get back into that. But retail and hospitality is a sector I definitely want to learn and do more in.
That's awesome. I feel like people try to poo-poo on retail a little bit, but me personally, I think there's a lot of opportunity in it, especially moving forward. It's just like the what you traditionally thought of retail is shifting and changing constantly. I just think for the creative person out there, there's a lot of opportunity coming up.
I agree. I definitely agree.
All right. So last but not least, can you please give a shout out to another lady that's doing some great things in real estate?
Yes. A woman I want to shout out is Maggie Parker. If you don't know Maggie Parker is going to be doing some big things in the community development and real estate development space. So I actually met her out in Dallas. I can't remember, some kind of event, and we've kept in contact, but she recently started a consulting firm that really focuses on real estate development within low to moderate income communities and ensuring that small business owners have like the assets that they need in order to do that. So check her out because she's doing some really good things.
Okay, I definitely will. Shout out to you, Maggie. All right. So how can people get in contact with you and how can they follow you on social media?
Yes. So you can visit my website, thebrandedcareer.com. I'm most engaged on LinkedIn and IG. So you can follow me at Melissa Fleury Inc. INC on both platforms.
Awesome. All right. So any last words of wisdom for the listeners?
Yeah. Listen to the Branded Career podcast.
Yes, definitely do that. And like and subscribe, like she said.
But no, my thing is be persistent. And I was actually just talking about this today. Like, no goal is rarely ever accomplished overnight. Many of the overnight successes that you see have been in the game for like 10 plus years. And they just finally got their moment when you found out about them. So if you feel like your career is not going in the right place, one, just know that it takes time. Like the best meals and the best entrees take time for it to really come together and the flavors to come together, right? And just be persistent in knowing that what your end goal is, it's going to happen, and get the support that you need to get there.
All right, awesome advice. Yeah, especially in real estate, and I would say especially in commercial real estate, if you're coming from not having any experience from it and you kind of trying to learn people, develop networks, learn the industry, learn all the technical skills, it just takes a while for that meal to cook. So just stay with it. So awesome advice. Melissa, I really, really appreciate you taking this time. This was a dope conversation. I learned a lot of stuff and I appreciate the vibe. So really thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for extending your platform and having me. Like we said, like, comment, and subscribe. All right, y'all. If y'all really want to support, make sure you do those things.
There you go. And give feedback. Like, even if it's something you didn't like, give feedback. Let me know how we can make it better. Let Melissa know how she can make her show better as well. So
appreciate it.
Appreciate you, Queen. Thank you so much. Again, my guest, Melissa Fleury, The Branded Career. Go check her out. Her website, on social media. She's really active on LinkedIn for sure. So definitely check out everything that she has going on. And again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
All right, y'all. It's another episode of the Pretty Girls Love Real Estate podcast, and I'll see you on the next one.
Bye.